You've been living your life under a quiet illusion, a soft lie that feels comforting enough to believe, yet dangerous enough to destroy you from the inside out. You've been told that the path to greatness begins with a dream, that progress begins with a goal, that writing down what you want somehow pulls it closer to you like a magnet. But that belief has weakened you. It has softened your instincts. It has turned your ambition into decoration instead of direction. And if Machiavelli were here today, he would tell you to burn your goals before they burn your potential. You think you're building a future. You think mapping your desires gives you structure, clarity, purpose, but all it gives you is distance from the person you claim you want to become. Because every goal is a confession that you are not yet enough. And every time you write down what you want, you are quietly admitting that who you are today is incapable of producing it. This is why goals don't empower you. They shame you. They remind you of what you lack. They draw a line between the person you imagine and the person you avoid becoming. You don't need more goals. You need fewer illusions. And the first illusion you must destroy is the idea that wanting something has value. Wanting is cheap. Wanting is effortless. Wanting is what every weak man does. But method is what the strong build. Method is what soldiers rely on. Method is what kings defend. Method is what Machiavelli wrote for. He didn't write for dreamers. He wrote for individuals who were ready to impose their will on the world, not wait for the world to fulfill their wishes. You have elevated goals to the status of gods, while completely ignoring the only force that has ever shaped human destiny, identity. Because you don't achieve goals, you become someone who makes those achievements inevitable. You don't rise to your intentions. You fall to your patterns, and your patterns are the architecture of your identity. Every day you repeat the same actions, think the same thoughts, respond with the same fear, choose the same comfort, and then you wonder why your life looks identical to last year. You wonder why nothing changes. But nothing changes because nothing inside you changes. The world rewards those who transform, not those who intend. And you've spent too long confusing the two. Think about how many goals you've set in your life. How many January promises? How many midnight declarations? How many scribbled notes in notebooks you never finished? And now ask yourself, how many of those goals became reality? How many of them did you abandon when discomfort arrived? How many died in the same graveyard where the majority of human ambition goes to rot? You know the answer, but there is a darker truth beneath all of this, a truth so unsettling that most people never confront it. Goals don't fail because you lack motivation. Goals fail because goals depend on motivation, and motivation is the weakest force in the human mind. It dies quickly. It evaporates in discomfort. It disappears in uncertainty. It collapses the moment reality demands pain, sacrifice, or discipline. Machiavelli would call your reliance on motivation a fatal flaw. He would say that you have built your future on a foundation that crumbles under pressure. He would tell you that power does not grow from desire. It grows from structure, from method, from systems that demand action even when you are tired, angry, uninspired, or afraid. Systems that pull you forward the way gravity pulls objects toward the earth. Systems that make your growth inevitable. But you don't have systems. You have goals. And goals are emotional, not structural. They make you feel inspired, not obligated. They spark imagination, not transformation. They excite your fantasy, not your discipline. And the world is shaped by discipline, not fantasy. There is a reason Machiavelli taught rulers to focus not on what they wanted, but on what they could control. Control is the first law of power, not desire, not dreams. Control. Control of the self, control of impulses, control of environment, control of patterns, control of identity. Without control, everyone is a servant, even if they think they are a master. Look at your life through that lens. How many of your days are controlled by your method, and how many are controlled by your mood? How much of your behavior is shaped by your design, and how much by your weakness? How much of your potential is lost because you wait for the right moment, the right feeling, the right level of inspiration? Here is the truth: there is no right moment. There is no right mood. There is no right feeling. There is only method. There is only the structure you build. There is only the identity you create through repeated, difficult, disciplined action. You think you need another goal. But what you need is a system that drags you into the version of yourself you keep imagining. You think you need motivation. But what you need is a method that doesn't care how you feel. You think you need clarity. But what you need is control. If you understand this, your entire life changes. Because then you stop chasing the future and start constructing it. You stop dreaming and start designing. You stop hoping and start becoming. The man who relies on goals fantasizes. The man who relies on methods evolves. But there is a deeper, even more dangerous truth. Your mind does not believe what you tell it. It believes what you do. Every action you repeat becomes a vote toward your identity. And identity is the engine of destiny. You can tell yourself that you're disciplined, but if your actions reveal inconsistency, your mind will see you as weak. You can tell yourself that you're ambitious, but if your habits reveal stagnation, your mind will label you a liar. Your mind is not persuaded by your goals. It is shaped by your behaviors. And your behaviors have been repeating the same message for years. I am the same. I am stuck. I am comfortable with my own limitations. But you don't have to stay that way. Identity is not permanent. It is programmable. But it is only reprogrammed through method, through repetition, through disciplined action, through designing your days so precisely that the person you want to become has no choice but to emerge. Most people never understand this. They waste their lives dreaming, setting goals, making lists, reading motivational quotes, watching self-improvement videos, yet their identity stays exactly the same. They never become the architect of their own mind. They never build the internal machinery required for transformation. You feel the weight of this truth pressing against your chest, don't you? That all the lists you've written, all the promises you've made to yourself, all the visions you've chased, none of them matter unless the architecture of your life changes. You have been treating life like a suggestion rather than a battlefield. And in a battlefield, hope is meaningless. Only preparation matters. Only action matters. Only the systems that make success inevitable matter. Because the world doesn't reward dreams. It devours them. Look around you. Everyone is running toward something they cannot reach because they are anchored by what they think they should do, rather than what they must do. People set goals, but they avoid the labor required to meet them. They buy books about discipline, but never build it. They worship time, yet waste it. They chase motivation, which is fleeting, shallow, and utterly unreliable. And as they stumble through life, thinking that a written goal is a guarantee of achievement, the real world keeps moving, indifferent, brutal, unforgiving. But you are about to learn the difference between the delusion of goals and the reality of method. You are about to see why the strongest humans in history, the men and women Machiavelli would admire, did not rely on hope, emotion, or luck. They relied on repetition, on structure, on creating conditions that forced their own transformation. They built systems so strong that even chaos, fear, and uncertainty could not prevent them from achieving the inevitable. Consider the principle of necessity. This is the first pillar of the method. You remove all alternatives. You remove the soft path. You remove the option of retreat. Machiavelli understood that humans are weak by default. Give a person a choice, and the human brain will almost always choose comfort. That is why kings and generals made impossible demands of themselves, because impossible demands leave no room for weakness. The first step is to engineer necessity, to design a reality where the only acceptable path is the one that shapes you into the person you must become. But necessity alone is not enough. You also need repetition. Repetition carves identity into flesh and bone. Repetition transforms behavior into instinct. You must repeat the right actions so consistently, so ruthlessly, that not doing them begins to feel unnatural, almost painful. Imagine your life so perfectly aligned with your transformation that to step outside it feels wrong, almost criminal. That is the power of repetition. That is how you become someone who no longer chases outcomes, but embodies them. Outcomes then chase you. And there is one more pillar you cannot ignore: accountability. Machiavelli was not naive. He knew that even the most disciplined men could falter without external pressure. The system must be impossible to escape, not through fear, but through design. Your environment must enforce your method. Your friends, your schedule, your surroundings, every element must remind you, pull you, drag you toward the actions that define your identity. Anything else is weakness disguised as freedom. But there is a darker truth lurking behind even this method. You will fight yourself every step of the way. The enemy you fear most is not failure. It is comfort. It is habit. It is the illusion of safety. The human mind resists change with every fiber of its being. It will whisper lies, tempt you, rationalize delay. You are tired, it says. You deserve rest. Tomorrow is fine. It's not that important. And every time you listen, you are reinforcing the old identity. Every time you obey comfort, you are training yourself for mediocrity. Every time you delay, you are telling the universe that you are not ready to become who you were meant to be. That is why the deletion of goals is not enough. you must replace them with inevitability. You must replace hope with method. You must replace dreams with structure. You must replace distraction with ritual. Only then does the human mind stop arguing with itself. Only then does action become automatic. Only then do you stop living a life of intentions and start living a life of results. Machiavelli would tell you that ambition without action is vanity. That thinking about power does not create power. That imagining dominance does not impose dominance. Only the person who structures every day with ruthless intention, who eliminates distraction, who forces their own growth, who aligns their identity with their desired outcome, only that person becomes inevitable. And inevitability is the closest thing to immortality a human can achieve. Now consider the psychological paradox that most people never confront. The more you rely on goals, the more fragile your life becomes. Every goal is a bet on your future self, a future self who may not exist, a self who is not yet trained to act under pressure. Every unfulfilled goal is a wound, a scar, a reminder of the gap between who you are and who you claim to want to be. But when you rely on method instead of goals, that gap disappears. Because method doesn't wait for the future. Method forces your present to evolve. Method turns your today into a version of yourself that would naturally achieve anything you previously thought you wanted.